Hey, welcome to the BibleQuizzer.net podcast, and today we just had our Summer Spectacular tournament, and so we just finished a few minutes ago. Most people are gone already, but I was able to pull Stephen Jr., Stephen Van, and so we're going to be talking a little bit about what happened today in the tournament. So the winning team of the tournament, drumroll please, was, what was their name again?
Sandwiches by the Seashore Inedible.
That's right, Sandwiches by the Seashore Inedible.
I take credit for that name.
Really? Okay.
I gave them that name.
Okay.
My sister's on that team.
Yep. So Lydia and so we had Lydia and Sophia Schultz on that team, and they like blew everybody away. I mean, the final quiz was 180 to 130. So yeah, the other team got some points, but it wasn't like down to the final question. Like they clearly won. And the quiz before that was a little interesting because it was for third and fourth place. And it went down to the final question. Not only that, but the final question was highly up for debate. In fact, I got pulled in to try to confer with Pastor Stephen Van on that question, and I couldn't give him a good answer because it was really confusing. So just to provoke argument in the audience, if you're listening, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what that was. That was from Hebrews 11:39, and the question was, how did they obtain promises? I think is what it was, or something like that. And it was, or subdue kingdoms. And the answer was through faith, and they said in faith. Nathan Sigma said in faith. And so really, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I would say there's definitely a difference in meaning. I think you could agree with that. There's definitely a difference between in faith and through faith, like by means of faith. But whether it was egregious enough to call it out, like as incorrect or not, that was the hard thing. And it was tied 130 to 130. It was the final question. Whoever won that would win third place. So that was really hard. So Pastor Stephen Van decided to just redo the whole question, ask a totally new one, and I think that was a good decision.
I think that was a good move because in a spectacular, a lot of more stuff is given than would be in an actual quiz.
Right,
I think it would have been a lot easier if it had been like the final question of Colorado Invitation or Squan or something, because then the quiz, I've been in quizzes that have been similar to that, the final answer.
Right.
And normally it's a hard and fast, if it's in a specific reference with deciding prepositions, normally it goes with what's in the verse.
Exactly, word for word. For quotes, it's word for word. For in a specific reference, it's word for word. You can give a little more leeway on partial references, but that's the hard thing with Spectacular is like a quizmaster, because like today I was a quizmaster for at least part of the day. That was really hard because we were generally being more lenient, and you think you're making it easier on yourself by being lenient, but actually you're making it way harder, because then when things get intense and you've been lenient in the past and you're just like, oh, that's so close, does this one qualify or not, it just gets way harder. Whereas if you just say, okay, just flat, like I'm gonna call this like a specific reference, it's got to be word perfect. If you just do that from day one, you're consistent, it's actually way easier, just setting that higher standard. Mm-hmm. So as a quizmaster, that's a really difficult thing, and I think all of us were giving more because we have so many beginning quizzers here.
Yes.
So speaking of beginning quizzers, it was exciting. We had a bunch of kids from, well, not just AOE, Academy of Excellence, but also other schools where I think they were in churches where they were brand new. But I was excited to see 7 of the AOE teams here. And Carlos, he got, I think, 10th place, which for a beginning quizzer is really amazing. So you might see him again in the next spectacular tournament. We'll see. That would be exciting. See if we can pull that off. But yeah, so that was exciting to see. Any interesting things from your side of things as a quizzer today?
Yes, it was exciting to see a lot of younger, a lot of brand new, but also younger quizzers stepping up. I saw many that were even below first and second grade elementary. I think there was 4 or 5 of those. And so it was really exciting to see how maybe they weren't quizzing at the fastest pace, but they knew the material. And that's the awesome thing about it, how they're learning God's word.
Absolutely.
And many of them knew it very well. I remember Kathleen, she's coming out of kindergarten, but she quizzed out by herself.
Yeah.
In a quiz. And
wow, that was amazing.
That's pretty incredible. Amazing for someone that age, I think 6 years old, 5 years old.
I couldn't believe she knew Hebrews 11 so well. Like she was rattling off Hebrews 11 like nothing. We had 2 questions in a row where it was like, quote Hebrews 11:8, and then finish the verse, and it was Hebrews 11:7. And she jumped first on both of those. Like, it was a good jump. Like, wasn't just like you hear the whole question. It was a solid jump, and she just rattled it off like nothing.
Wow.
So she is going to be a force in a few years. So, I mean, she already kind of is.
Yeah.
So great, that's awesome. So talking about quizzers memorizing and learning the content, and of course that's really what we're after. We love that about Bible quizzing. That's the driving force behind everything that we do in Bible quizzing, is for people to not just learn the Bible, but for it to impact their hearts and their minds. So talking about that, what is something from, I assume you memorized all 3 chapters, right? What is something from one of those 3 chapters that has specifically stuck out to you as you've memorized?
So lots of times the passages that are the hardest sometimes become the most meaningful because you have to spend more time with them.
That's true.
Chapter 12, I've noticed with a lot of different quizzers, my siblings especially, it's been one of the harder ones. Just maybe the wording and some of the concepts presented. But verse 2, not the hardest verse, but it was impacting to me. It's looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. And then it goes on to say, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. But the first part there, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, it's all about walking with Jesus, having a relationship with him. It lists off all those people in chapter 11. It says, by faith, Moses, by faith, Noah, by faith, Abraham. And it goes on to even people more recent to that day, and talking about how Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith today, and how I can have that same testimony that by faith I was able to live my life. By faith I was able to do these things.
That's awesome. That's
because
so
of Jesus.
Yeah, that's so encouraging, and it is amazing to read about those people. And there was nothing about those people that set them apart except for their faith. And so it's really all the glory. All the glory should just go to God for their faith and what they were able to accomplish for him through their faith. All the glory goes to God. And it also means that even wherever you're at in your life, whether you feel like you're the worst person in the world, or whether you feel like you're just not special, like you'll never amount to anything, yet by faith, God is going to be working in your life if you just believe him. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. But he that comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And that's one of my favorite verses from those whole 3 chapters. Very well-known verse, but that's one of my favorites. He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. He will never let you down as long as you seek him by faith. And without faith, if you don't trust him, if you don't have that dependence, it's simple. Faith is simple. You just trust. But yet it's difficult sometimes, because we like to trust ourselves. We like to think better of ourselves than we really are. But all it takes is faith, and when you do trust in him, he is a rewarder. And without it, you have no chance. It is impossible to please God. So those verses are awesome. And I love these 3 chapters. In particular, I think, when I did Hebrews 9 years ago, I don't think that these were the ones I memorized, but for Spectacular, but later on that year I memorized them. I think chapters 11 and 12 I memorized, and so they're still with me. And of course, working with the quizzers, they become fresh. And that alone, even working with the quizzers, talking about the verses as we're going, has really impacted me as well, all over again. So, any closing remarks you want to make about the tournament today, or in general?
Well, it was very good competition. Maybe not as many solid two-person teams, but a lot of work was put into it, and there was still fierce competition, especially when it got to the top 12 teams. So it was a very enjoyable day, very mind-challenging day, a lot of hard thinking to think through some of these passages.
Mental endurance, that's a huge thing.
But it was very enjoyable, and I was really happy with how it went.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Stephen, and it's good to have you on the podcast, and we'll make sure to have you on here again for sure. So we're going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and to get more content just like this about the Bible quiz world, and get involved if you can. Get involved in quizzing if you haven't yet. It is awesome. Do everything you can. Whatever God puts in your lap to do for young people memorizing his word, just go for it. Just do it if it's in your power. There's nothing better you can do with your life. So I'll leave you with that. We'll see you next time.